My issue has been going on for as long as I've been around in this country, or you before that, is that the British government are unable to say anything against Israel since they've come about, right? And when they do, last time was William Hague said something about Israelis, and he's been demoted since. Now, why is that happening?
Okay, good. So
why are the British government unable to say anything against Israel?
Okay, good question. So yours is related to the Palestine-Israel issue. The brother over here. Your question, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to resurface one of the points that was raised earlier from one of our esteemed seniors about the free speech in the Charlie Hebdo scenario. I think one of the reasons why the Muslim community was so agitated by that is because in the same week the CTS bill was introduced, which severely restricted the freedoms of the Muslims specifically, and at the same time they were using the stick of freedom of speech to beat the Muslim community at the same time. So essentially, I wanted to say to Stephen that this isn't really about your personal views, because your personal views do seem to be very aligned with what we want, but it's not really about personal views of any one politician, because what we find is that CTS bill is a manifestation of government policy. It was very much institutionalized, and it's seen as something inherently Islamophobic. So in that sense, in that context, a lot of Muslims, including myself, we feel really disillusioned. Actually, we want to distance ourselves from the political process, not because we have political apathy, not because we feel an indifference to politics, but rather we feel that we can form our own political opinion from our own value basis, instead of looking at political administration, which is inherently at odds with our values. So that's more of a comment as opposed to a question, but maybe we can come back to that.
Very good. Go ahead, brother at the back.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for coming down. I have a question. You're the same MP that voted for the Iraq War, which killed a million innocent Muslims. You're coming here for us to vote for you. My question is that Labour, the ones that agreed to the CTS bill, which was the fastest bill to be passed in history, it has attacks Islam and criminalises us. Why should we vote for you? What do you have for offer for us?
Very good. Good question. Thank you. Go ahead.
My question is regarding the local community as well. I lived in Beckton for a couple of years ago, for 50 years now. I just need to know, how will you help the Beckton community, Muslim community, which is over 600 families or 800 or so? How will you help them to get a modern mosque where we've tried for 14 years, nothing is happening, and it's quite a large community. The distance from the nearest mosque from Beckton to here is about 3 miles. This is the nearest mosque, and the community is suffering a lot. So they've tried everything through the council, nothing is happening. I just need to know, how will you help us to do it?
I think it's easier in UM Barrow to build to get this petty shop than mosque.
To get a mosque.
And there's one more comment I want to bring into your attention, Mr. Tim. Mr. Robin Wales, within our community, he is known as he's widely believed within the Muslim community that he is anti-Muslim. There are so many reasons.
And
I think we need people like you. One of like your personality to take on as a mayor.
Got an endorsement there. Last question from Abadil, and then we'll try and wrap all of these up in an answer.
What is your foreign policy about Middle East, especially
foreign policy?
Palestine?
Okay. Good. Can I just so the first one related to Israel and Palestine. And I know you recently, around 6 months ago, agreed with the proposal for a two-tier state, but that is very open-ended. So what commitment, what is going to happen going forward? What is going to change in our lifestyle to really lifetime to see that happen?
Right. Yes, I do support, as actually I think almost everybody does, the proposition that there should be a two-state solution, that there should be a viable and secure Israel alongside a viable and secure Palestine. The problem is, how do you make it happen? And that, in the end, this has got stuck for about 30 years, this issue, and that was why we decided, under the leadership of Ed Miliband, who is himself Jewish, that we would vote in favour of recognition by the UK of the state of Palestine. And as you probably know, the House of Commons as a whole voted in favour of recognising the state of Palestine, and we got a pretty negative reaction from Israel. So, I mean, that first question about why is the UK not able to speak against Israel? I think the Labour Party has changed that, and we are now able. We voted contrary to the wishes of the Israeli government in favour of recognition by the UK of the state of Palestine, and that would be the policy of a Labour government if a Labour government was to be elected, that we should recognise the state of Palestine. What we have also, the sort of qualification that we've given is we wouldn't necessarily recognise it on day one, but we would recognise Palestine. And it seems to me you've got to do that, otherwise this talk about a separate Palestinian state is just talk and won't be any more than that. I mean, I hope that helps to answer the question about the Middle East. I mean, obviously the Middle East is a big area, but I think the heart of this, to make any progress at all, we have to achieve a Palestinian state. And, you know, that needs to be...
Is there a commitment from the Labour Party in terms of timescale for that?
I don't think we can put a timescale on it at the moment, no, because it isn't a matter just for the UK. There will have to be negotiations, there'll have to be agreement with the international community, and the US will also have to be persuaded to go for whatever the timescale is. But it does seem to me one thing we could do on our own is recognise Palestine. That is within the gift and power of the British government to do, and my view is that we should, and that's why we voted in that way in the House of Commons. Just the point about, you know, should people pull out? I think somebody was making the point that, you know, people are giving up and giving up on politics. I think there is a real problem in Britain at the moment that quite a lot of people are giving up on politics. You've explained some reasons why for some...
Politics in general, it's just this political process, because I love politics. I think Islam is inherently political, but we can form our own political views and our own value bases. I said people are moving away from this political process.
Yeah. Well, you see, my plea back to you is to engage with the process, because in the end, the process is the only way you change anything. And that's my message as well to young people generally, because I think young people generally are giving up on politics at the moment. They're not voting, they're not interested in, they're passionate about political issues, but they've given up on the kind of the party system. But the truth is the party system is the only way that things are going to get changed. And so my plea back to you is don't give up on it, but get involved in it and change it by being involved, not by withdrawing. Because I think if we're going to achieve anything, that's the only mechanism that there is to change things. Why should people vote for me? Well, the Labour Party manifesto is going to be published next week. I would urge you to vote for me to support the changes that manifesto sets out. For me, it's in the end a question of fairness. I think at the moment, Britain, the last few years, Britain has been run in the interest of a very small number of people at the top, when the country should be run in the interest of everybody who lives in the country. And our manifesto will set out proposals about changes that will enable that to happen, the youth guarantee that I've talked about and so on. And I think that's in the interest of people in our area. And that's the reason in the end why I'm arguing that you should vote for me.
Every 4 years you say you come out saying, oh, we're going to give you this, but you never give anything. You have nothing.
Well, I think you're probably old enough to remember what the last government did in terms of the health service that we've been talking about, in terms of schools, which is very different from what the current government has done about the health service and education. And actually, if you look at the things that the Labour Party promised from 1997, which you probably don't remember, but I do, 2001, 2005, 2010, we did, I mean, people used to criticise us for not promising very much, but we did make promises and we delivered on them. Now, I think that's very different from this government. They promised they wouldn't put up VAT, they put up VAT. They promised they wouldn't, or the Lib Dems promised they wouldn't put up tuition fees, they put up tuition fees. You know, I think it's a very different approach.
You actually moved away from the question. I said that you're the party that voted for the Iraq war, which killed the innocent 1 million Muslims, our brothers and sisters in Iraq. I said, what can you deliver to the Muslim community? Can you even deliver anything to us? Can you even give us anything? That's the question. You're moving away.
Well, you're absolutely right. I did vote in favour of military action in Iraq 12 years ago, and Well, what I would say to you is this, that if we had known then what we knew subsequently about what was going on in Iraq, we clearly should not have taken military action in Iraq. However, we didn't have that information at the time, and I took the decision which appeared to me to be right on the basis of what we did know at the time.
So were we incompetent at that time then?
What?
Were we incompetent then that time?
Yeah.
We didn't have the information that we have subsequently.
So you made a
If
decision.
we did not have, then why did we go in the war then?
Well, because we
We are
had
going to kill innocent people then.
we had information, and it wasn't correct. It wasn't complete.
But you're the
And
British government.
all we could do was take a decision on the basis of the information that we had, and it proved to be incorrect.
I mean, just to wrap up that point, I mean, because we are out of time, but I mean, you've now said that your position now is that you feel that whatever we were told in terms of Iraq war at that time was now in hindsight, we were misjudged really in making that decision.
It was wrong. They were not weapons of mass destruction.
Okay.